Welcome to the Sunday morning meditation service. Today we're going to do Satanama, entering into the service, and it's a way to really calm yourself down. Every morning you can do this for 12 minutes. We can't do it for 12, but you should do it for 12 minutes, and then send healing out at the end of it. So this is what Sa means. Sa is the beginning, infinity, the totality of everything that ever was, is, or will be. And that's taking your thumb to your first finger. Ta is life experience and creativity that manifests from infinity. So then you do the next finger, Ta. Na is death, change, and the transformation of consciousness. So that's third. And then Ma is rebirth, regeneration, and resurrection, which allows us to consciously experience the joy of the infinite. Satama is so primal that its impact on our psyche is like splitting an atom. The power of this mantra comes from the fact that it rearranges the subconscious mind at the most elementary level. It has the power to break habits and addictions because it accesses the level of the mind where habits are created. I know we all need to work on changing some of these habits. So we will now do Satanama.
Good morning, everyone. When I was on our family vacation this year, a few weeks ago, and we sat around a table, the whole family, grandkids, wives, husbands, and we were doing our usual rap session about anything and everything. I realized that I speak to the family in those situations in a way that's wide open, and not exactly in the way that I speak to the people that attend my services. Because there's still that sense that you may be offended in some way and lose the opportunity to gain the most ultimate valuable thing in life. Because some of you are not yet at that place where your ego-centered defenses aren't really out there. So I'm throwing in the towel on that. I'm speaking to you today the way I would speak to Dell, my older son, Shad, Cintisha, Norma, Mike, at our family reunions. A couple of days ago, I was driving down Canyon where they have one of these flashing lights for pedestrian crossing. And there was an older homeless guy with a shopping cart full of stuff piled up, and he's struggling to get it across the street while the lights are flashing, and he had a little dog on a rope with him. My first thought was, what an unlucky dog to have found this situation and to live this life. But understanding dogs, I know that this dog will love that particular guy as much as he would love any other owner, and would not understand any difference between the wealth of a very wealthy person or the poverty of someone who's pushing a shopping cart full of rags around. You'll have the same affection, look upon both in the same way. And while this may sound strange to us to some degree, we ultimately, in order to find our awakened joy, peace, and love, will have to be able to look upon everyone in that same way, to embrace, bless, forgive, release, love everyone in exactly the way that that little dog on the rope will love that particular master. And I'll tell you another thing about dogs. My dog today, quite often when I leave the house on a Sunday morning, and I bring the dog with me, I always do, I'll put him on a leash just to take him up the few steps to the car. And today I didn't do that. Some days I don't do it. I take a shot. And the reason why I mean I'm taking a shot or I leash him up is because we have rabbits in the area. And if he sees a rabbit, he will chase that rabbit. He's never caught a rabbit, and he probably never will catch a rabbit. Because rabbits in that area have holes all over the place, and they even have some of those long plastic pipes that I never got to use. And they're sitting behind my shed, so they go in there. And my dog cannot get a rabbit. But what he can do is he can cost me a lot of time when he chases them down the mountain into the bushes and will not give up on trying to get them, which is what happened today. So, and I had to get here today in order to give Heather some new overheads for this talk that I was going to give this morning. And I didn't want to be overly late, but then of course the dog has no sense of time. He has no sense of my time. So he's out there, and I've got to go scrambling down and leash him up and bring him to the car. So he has no sense of time because that's his nature, and that's just what he is. And we likewise are beholden to our nature, except that our nature in the beginning is somewhat conditioned, a lot conditioned, by the conditions of our lives. We are born into a physical body, and we naturally believe ourselves to be strictly separate physical body minds in a world of separate other people and other conditions, other circumstances. And when we live from that as we grow up, we naturally want to, make this physical self that we relate to as attractive as we can, so that we can have a cool romantic partner, that we can have, at some point, a really nice place to live and a car, and of course to have the money that we believe buys freedom. There's nothing evil in pursuing those things. The only evil arrives when we are willing to lie to gain those things. When we're willing to deceive and lie, cheat, manipulate, and steal to gain those material elements, then evil arrives in our consciousness. And to the degree we're willing to lie, to that degree the evil will take us over. But some people were really concerned about this whole idea. If material grasping can lead to the takeover of darkness in our consciousness, how are we to live? Because our natural inclination is to glorify the physical self, the idea of being a physical separate body-mind, the idea of having the material things that make in our minds for freedom. And yet, it is incumbent upon us to discover that there is no freedom in gaining whatever material things we gain. There's nothing wrong with seeking them. There's nothing wrong with gaining them. There's nothing wrong with having them. But the error lies in the illusion that they can bring us freedom, peace, fulfillment, and satisfaction, which they cannot. So there must be, for us human beings, a way to shift our perspective from the initial state of awareness. There must be a way to shift to a way of thinking that leads us into true happiness, true peace, true love, true prosperity, true joy. There must be a way, because the masters down through the ages tell us that there is a way into the kingdom or the consciousness of heaven, a heavenly consciousness, which we are told is in us, in our midst, available. So at some point, we must recognize that. And A Course in Miracles speaks directly to this. Can we have this first PowerPoint, please? You can read this in the old text, page 447, the new edition, 481. Do you want freedom of the body or of the mind? Which do you value? Which is your goal? For one you see as means, the other end. And one must serve the other and lead to its predominance, increasing its importance by diminishing its own. Isn't there any more to this? Okay. That's what I get for being late. I had another paragraph under that, but that's all right. We'll get it. Do you want freedom of the body or of the mind? Which do you value? Which is your goal? For one you see as means, the other end. And one must serve the other and lead to its predominance, increasing its importance by diminishing its own. The Course will go on to say, anyone who seeks the body to have the mind serve the body has no idea of what is truly valuable, and actually seeks but an illusion that ultimately must bring failure. That's it in a nutshell from A Course in Miracles. Anyone seeking to free themselves from body consciousness by using body consciousness, assigning to the mind those things we believe the mind can bring about to bring the body's freedom, has no idea what is truly valuable, and ultimately is headed on a path for absolute disappointment. And that's the truth. So, which is it we should be choosing in this second stage of life, except freedom of the mind? But to understand freedom of the mind, we must understand that there is no way that the body has a mind of its own. The body has no mind but the mind that we give to it, the beliefs we give to it. Now, Santisha spoke about this last Sunday. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind in manifestation. How many of you believe that that's true? Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind in manifestation. How strongly do you believe in that absolute unity truth? Because I'll tell you, we're in a collective dilemma right now. The body is only the outpicturing of the thinking of the mind and the collective consciousness of the minds. So where are we with this whole idea of COVID-19 pandemic? While it's being pumped through the airwaves at us, through television, radio, and every possible media, to be concerned about it and to get your vaccines and to wear your masks and to do your social distancing and to wash your hands. Is that the body? Or is that the mind of humanity being ripped off? At some point in our evolution, we have to transcend a lot of the limited thinking we've been conditioned to believe in. And at some point, we will actually have to transcend the idea that I am strictly a body in a world of separate phenomena. Have to transcend it, to live in a completely different awareness. And in that different awareness, there is nothing that the distorted thinking of the world can do to make you sick. You have to believe in sickness to be sick. And there are those that gain something that has no real value, but they gain something from this strange phenomena that they've propagated. Are we to go from now on wearing masks, living in fear and concern? And what's the worst thing that can happen to us? The physical body can become very sick. There's definitely that element. You can get very sick. And some people that don't have a very good physical diet and have already diminished their bodies to a certain degree, they can get very sick. So for them, listen, it would have been wonderful if we could have so hoodwinked the truth and had everybody in the media saying, get vaccinated, it's going to save you from the pandemic and its variants. Get vaccinated. And that we could have got everybody believing that, it would have been just fine. Because everybody would have believed it, we would have been free of the pandemic, and we'd be able to take our masks off and live freely. But there are those who are so totally involved in understanding the truth that they are out there relating the idea of mind over body, out there relating that these vaccines really are part of a belief system. And so we have the hesitant people that don't want to be vaccinated. And so we have this now divergence, we have this conflict. But let me say to you, my family, as I say it to my family, if you're going to find life and find it abundantly, you're going to have to take to task the initial awareness you were born and raised in. You're going to have to do the spiritual practices that help you withdraw from the limited thinking of the world altogether, so that you live above the limited thinking of those that would want you just to be a consumer, to be a master of life. And to do that is not the easiest calling, but it is the only calling to freedom, happiness, and peace. So, those of you, when I said, last week I said, I don't know who I said it to, this service or the Wednesday service, I said that Eckhart Tolle doesn't live in a cave, doesn't wear sackcloth and ashes, but he's a master of life, because he's not moved by the changing tides and circumstances of the world. In fact, he's a multimillionaire, so he does a lot of things in the world, creates videos, books, has all these meetings and travels, but he does not deviate from the truth. And here's what he knows about the truth, that the physical life is only a beginning, limited dimension of experience. And we have to understand this. We don't give up our possessions. We don't give up even seeking the things that we believe will alleviate the physical body from certain stress and work, etc. We don't give that up. We give up the notion that it is going to make us free. And it can't. So that's why I have this illustration today with the gum. You all got a stick of gum, correct? This is going to save you from the limited thinking of the world. It's the only thing I can do to help you understand You can gather whatever you want to gather on a physical level, but you must begin to understand it will not make you free, because the more you gather on the physical level, the greater will be your fear, listen to it, of losing it. You gather the cars and the money and the houses and the girlfriends, but you'll have the fear nagging at you that something can happen on the stock market or tomorrow, or there'll be another pandemic, or whatever it will be that will make you lose it. So to get free, you have to give up the notion that these things will buy you freedom. You don't have to eat this gum right now. In fact, you might want to take it with you to remind you, because you already know what gum is like. In the initial stage of life, we chew gum. And the initial stage of life is like the physical life. The gum is like the physical life. At first, it seems it's going to be sweet and very good. Let's pursue it. Let's get more of it. But you see, as you continue to chew the gum, the sweetness and the flavor of it diminishes and diminishes and diminishes until it has no flavor whatsoever. And yet there are people still chewing it, still hoping that the flavor will come back. They've reached that age, 50, 60 years old, still chewing for the world. It's going to come back. I'll make something. It'll make my life work. It's not. It can't. You're supposed to come up against the wall of disillusionment in the physical pursuit. You're supposed to be awake enough to realize this isn't it. I have to get serious about the spiritual part of my experience, for I am a soul, first, foremost, and eternally. And it is my soul that I must nurture. And it is the treasures of the Spirit that I must find and finally seek and gain and live free. So, let me share this with you from Eckhart Tolle. From his book, Stillness Speaks, page 13, most people spend their entire life imprisoned within the confines of their own thoughts. They never go beyond the narrow, mind-made, personalized sense of self that is conditioned by the past. And you, as in each human being, there is a dimension of consciousness far deeper than thought. It is the very essence of who you are. We may call it presence, awareness, the unconditioned consciousness. In the ancient teachings, it is the Christ within, or your Buddha nature. There are those that have been in unity and gone through unity and arrived in the enlightened level of Christ consciousness. It's a completely different way to be alive. It's a way of life without fear. It's a way of life where you live in the moment beautifully. And while things may seem to go against what you physically would want to be so, it no longer has the effect upon you, because you've risen to an awareness of a joy, a peace, a feeling of love and fulfillment and completion and freedom that can only be gained in the awareness of your divinity. That core nature that is called to you to rise up from this limited world in which Jesus said you have tribulation day in and day out. And you've gotten so used to it that you think it is life. It is not life. It is the initial state of awareness that must be transcended. And so we don't give up our attachments. We don't give up our physical pursuits of pleasure. We give up the notion that this is what's actually going to fulfill us. We move on from there. If you grasp this next paragraph from A Course in Miracles, you have the whole truth. You have the essential truth of what the masters of life have wanted to get across. If you get this paragraph, if you can embrace it, not only that, it will provide for you the yoga, the daily yoga you may need to transcend the thinking you've grown so used to honoring. Can we have this next PowerPoint, please? This is A Course in Miracles, page 194, the old text, the new text, 210. You will awaken to your own call, for the call to awake is within you. If I live in you, and this is the Christ speaking, you are awake. Yet you must see the works I do through you, or you will not perceive that I have done them unto you. Do not set limits on what you believe I can do through you. You will not accept what I can do for you. Yet it is done already. And unless you give all that you have received, you will not know that your Redeemer liveth, and that you have awakened with him. Redemption is recognized only by sharing it. God's Son is saved. Bring only this awareness to the sonship, and you will have a part in the redemption as valuable as mine. The voice that takes away the illusions of the world. This is it. Let's have it again, please. You will awaken to your own call, for the call to awake is within you. Your nature of life, your soul consciousness says it's time to wake up. If I live in you, and this is the Christ in you speaking, you are awake. Yet you must see the works I do through you, or you will not perceive that I have done them unto you. Do not set limits on what you believe I can do through you, or you will not accept what I can do for you. Yet it is done already. And unless you give all that you have received, you will not know that your Redeemer liveth, and that you have awakened with him. Redemption is recognized only by sharing it. God's Son is saved. Bring only this awareness to the sonship, and you will have a part in the redemption as valuable as mine. The sonship is life, is everybody, is everyone. To bring the Christ consciousness into the life you are living, you must only bless and never blame. You must only trust and never doubt. You must only love and never hate. You must only have insight into what is necessary and appropriate to bring harmony instead of seeking to be special, better, and apart. I have said this to you as I say it directly to those who live with my same blood. Because where are you going today? What are you doing today? What will you have today? The world and its madness? Will you be its consumer forever? Or will you take to task your awareness? Will you do the spiritual practice of meditation? Will you seek through the teachings that happen here in Unity? Will you give to it? There are people watching this who don't give. They think it's free. They go to a restaurant. They pay a bill in a restaurant. They even leave a tip. But they'll watch this on screen and never send $1 into Unity because they're not awake, and they never will be awake because their trust is still in the illusion that the physical life is what will make them free. And I say to you, watching this on a screen, unless you give, you will never be received into the consciousness of God. I'm going to conclude it there today. We're going to have our meditation together. I spoke to you today. Next Wednesday and next Sunday, I'll probably not speak to you as directly as I speak to my family members. But by then, you should be able to hear a little bit better, and I won't have to be so emphatic. We're going to meditate together, listening to our Tibetan bowls, which are calibrated to the chakras of the consciousness. Just allow them to lift you up and be okay with sitting here. You see, if you're okay with sitting here, the incessant thinking of the ego, there's something I could be doing better, something I could be gaining from the world, something more, something missing, something wrong. If you can just start to give that stuff up and become present, more of the consciousness of your soul will come through. More of God will become present in your consciousness. So, as you listen to the bowls, we'll get to a period of silence. As we get to that period of silence, you may want to hold this thought. Just contemplate this thought. Having no imagined separate self, with no imagined needs, only love is given, only love received. Having no imagined separate self tied up in a physical illusion, and no imagined needs to serve that illusion, only love is given, only love received, only love will heal. Having no imagined separate self, with no imagined need, only love, only love, only believe, only love received. as we go forth from this meditation to those places we occupy in time and space. Let us remember each day how important it is to consider the inclination of our minds. What am I inclined to believe and live today? Knowing it will make all the difference in the way your life appears to you. So as we go forth from this meditation, let us go forth with the gratitude that the truth will always exist. And for those who want it, it will always be there to deliver them. And for this, let us feel gratitude to the Creator and Sustainer of all life, the living Christ. Amen. We will take an offering for unity now. And for those of you that are watching this on live stream, we'll show you the different ways you can tithe. There's probably a little spot on your screen where you can hit that, which says donate, and it will tell you the different ways you can donate and how much. But for now, I would ask the people that are seated here to take their offerings in their hands if they're going to make a physical offering, or just bring to mind that financial gift you'd like to make to Unity of Boulder. And let's bless that gift in mind with this prayer. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give.
There's a presence moving softly in the quiet, my being, moving softly all the time. One heart, one mind, one light, united and divine. There's a presence moving softly in the quiet of my being, moving softly all the time. One heart, one mind, one light, united and divine, united and divine.
Thank you for joining us today. All of you online as well, thank you for joining us. I want to remind you to, on a daily basis, check the inclination of your mind as you head into the day. What is it you are expecting, desiring, living? Amen.